Hey guys, Jimmy Simeon here. I'm here with Jeff Owens, Preferred Real Estate Inspections. Let's talk electrical today. Jeff, copper, aluminum. What's the difference? Which is better? And why do we have both?
Great question. We see that a lot on the older homes, anywhere between 80s and prior, or typically in those years where they're obviously highlighted not only from a buyer standpoint, from an inspector standpoint when he goes to the house, and also from an insurance standpoint.
Right.
So years ago they transferred, and we were using predominantly aluminum. Then aluminum developed some issues with the way the connections were. Fires started, shorts and things of that nature, so they migrated back into the 70s away from aluminum, 75, 76, 77, depending on the builder and depending on the time frame, to back to copper.
Okay.
So when I come to a house back in those time periods, 75, maybe prior to 80, I'm looking for that, right? So we obviously are not electricians,
Sure.
but we are to go to the service panel. We're supposed to evaluate the service panel, which is the distribution box, breaker box, whatever you want to call it. We're supposed to get a little bit deeper into that. Once we get deeper in that, we take the panels off, where now we can see what I call the whole, I don't want to say guts of it, but you know, it tells you the breaker, it shows you the wires, it tells you the wire type, aluminum, copper, etc. There is a reporting standard that we have to follow on that. Not only we have to identify aluminum and copper, we have to also identify whether it's solid or striated. Okay. Predominantly the striated, it's all safe today's environment if they were still using it because of the connections. Back then the connections were not such where they were safe, so therefore they got rid of them. But the striated survived. Striated are the twisted pair of wires versus the solid. Now, as I understand, the solid is what needs to be identified on the report, which is an issue a lot of times for insurance companies. So if you do run into that, that's best to have that conversation with your agent. Is this going to be an issue possibly for insurance reasons? Yes, because the solid, the problem with that is a lot of times the solids and the connections were becoming loose. They were backing out, creating sparks, creating fires. So we're looking at that. In addition to that, where there are some what we call obsolete panels. Some older homes, 60s, 70s, they still worked. They kept it alive, so to speak. They kept it running, so to speak. And then all of a sudden we walk up and these obsolete panels are existing. There's 3 or 4 that are known.
FPE is the biggest one we see around here.
Exactly. FPE, Federal Pacific, is a big one. That panel is obsolete. When we see that, because of the known history of the issues involved with that, we're not even supposed to, we're not obligated to go in depth on that as far as the evaluation. So we just list it as obsolete panel because of known histories. We have to inform the buyer. I mean,
of course,
absolutely, because it's a fire issue. Plus the insurance companies, whoever else you guys know, will not want to know that information. And we typically write up as obsolete, and we typically recommend a replacement. Purpose of that is we don't want you walking into a situation that's unsafe for you and your family, and we didn't make you aware of it. Okay, that's a bad thing. So we want to make you aware of it. We back off and say, look, this is what it is. This is the reason for that. We inform the buyer. However, we recommend a full replacement of everything. Now,
the panel,
Yep, exactly.
You're not suggesting a replacement of all the wiring in the house necessarily. You're just talking about the panel itself.
Talking about the panel, we do, in the event you do have, which you, at that point now you're going to have a licensed electrician come in. He can evaluate further if there's any other safety issues that maybe were involved beyond the panel to each, what we call each of the circuits of the branches throughout the house. And that would be if there's aluminum wiring there. Is aluminum still in good tact? Were the connections proper?
Well, let's talk about connections. You know, we get some of these older houses, people are like, I want the whole house rewired. Well, sometimes that's not practical, right? You know, what people don't realize is you can put the connectors on, right?
Correct.
So can you elaborate on the connectors a little bit?
Exactly. So
this is if you have aluminum wiring home, and you're not going to rewire the entire home. There is a fix, let's just say, for that.
Exactly. So obviously the expense was a big thing, and the homeowner says, hey, I don't really want to spend that much money on it, so they ignore it. Or they came in and did a renovation, and the electrician came in and used the proper known connections that will connect, whether it be the aluminum wire to the receptacle or the aluminum wire if they're doing splices, whatever the case may be, they're doing this upgrade or renovations. and those proper connections which create the safer environment.
Right.
And they're obligated to use that.
Right.
So
Are those the purple connectors?
They're the purple connectors. There's just certain identification on
Right.
there that shows that this connector is made for aluminum.
Right.
Because you can't use a connector that's solely used for copper and use aluminum to it. You're not supposed to.
Exactly.
So that's that evolution of safety. And
Okay.
that right there needs to be known, so that way the buyer knows what they're up against to determine whether they want to maybe add some more safety to that, get
Right.
an electrician to do a further dive into the electrical.
Right.
Those are all important because, again, it's a safety issue,
Sure.
and the inspector must bring that to light and must have that discussion with the buyer
Okay.
in order for them to determine what next step they want to make.
Let's chat just quickly about all the old houses are missing GFCIs, and can you explain to folks what those actually are?
So ground fault circuit interrupts is something that actually was around for many, many years. What they did was they evolved over time, as
Right.
we all do for everything. So you had limited areas where the ground fault circuit interrupt were to be installed.
Right.
Exterior, then they evolved into putting them in the garage, and they
Right.
evolved and put them in the bathrooms, and they
Right.
evolved putting them in kitchens.
Right.
Then they evolved from just 6 feet from the kitchen sink to all the receptacles in the kitchen. So when I come into a house, we have to test that, right?
Right.
So if we come into houses back in the 70s or 80s, and obviously all of them are not GFCIs for
Right.
those areas I just mentioned, we do have to list that on the report. We just have to make that aware. The safety side of it, the electrical side of it is something the inspector has to tell the buyer. The seller is not obligated because the home was built at this time.
Right.
Now, however, if a seller came in and they renovated or made changes to that time, they're supposed to adopt to the current
Codes.
local municipality code.
Right.
So we can bring that up, that all these changes to the bathroom and this new addition on here didn't evolve and didn't employ all those. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. However, it's not necessary for the seller to do it, but I educate the buyer to say these are good things to have.
Right.
Right? Because there's a reason for them.
Right.
There's a reason for having them in bathrooms. Obviously, there's a reason for them outside, etc. If there's a pool, there's bigger reasons for that as well, just
Right.
being the safety of water, etc. So those are obviously things that need to be discussed and will also should be on the report.
Right. Well, look, folks, there you have it. There's another snippet from Jeff Owens. This is good information when you're buying a home, or actually if you still live in your home. So, I mean, these videos are going to be geared toward knowledge for everyone, buy and sell. So, thank you, and have a good day. Bye-bye.